Welcome, brave souls, to the top 10 most haunted forts in South Africa. From forgotten battles to restless spirits, these forsaken strongholds hold secrets darker than the night itself. Join me as we uncover the chilling history of these haunted sites, where the dead refuse to rest. 1. Fort Frederick, Port Elizabeth. Perched silently on the windswept cliffs of Port Elizabeth, Fort Frederick stares out over Algoa Bay like a guardian long forgotten. But not alone. Built in 1799 to repel a French invasion that never came, the stone walls of this abandoned British fort have absorbed centuries of secrets and something darker. They say a soldier, tormented by loneliness and despair, took his own life within these walls and never left. Visitors whisper of hearing footsteps echoing across empty corridors, the clink of unseen boots on ancient stone. Some claim to see a shadowy figure staring into the ocean, rifle in hand, mourning a war that never happened. At night, the air turns icy, cameras malfunction, tourists flee. The silence becomes unbearable until it's broken by a whisper behind you. Fort Frederick may be empty, but make no mistake, something still patrols its ramparts, forever trapped between duty and death. 2. Castle of Good Hope, Cape Town. In the heart of Cape Town stands a fortress drenched in shadow, the Castle of Good Hope, South Africa's oldest colonial building, and perhaps its most cursed. Built in the 1600s by the Dutch East India Company, this star-shaped stronghold was never just a military post, it was a place of punishment, suffering, and death. Legends swirl like mist through its cold stone halls. The most infamous? The lady in grey, once seen crying through the corridors until a body was discovered beneath the chapel floor and her spirit vanished. But she wasn't alone. Guards have reported a tall phantom pacing the battlements, eyes hollow, always watching. The bell in the tower rings by itself, despite being sealed shut for over a century. Footsteps echo in empty rooms, doors slam without warning, lights flicker where no power runs. Time itself feels warped inside these walls. Some say the souls of tortured prisoners still scream at night. Others say the castle doesn't keep them in, it keeps something else out. The Castle of Good Hope is more than haunted. It's alive, and it remembers everything. 3. Fort Klapperkop, Pretoria. High on a lonely hill overlooking Pretoria, Fort Klapperkop stands like a tombstone of forgotten wars. But something still stirs behind its iron gates. Built in 1898 to defend against British invasion, this military fort never saw the battles it was made for. Instead, it became a monument of silence and a playground for the dead. Locals speak of phantom soldiers marching through the courtyards, boots thudding in perfect rhythm, though no living soul is there. Tourists report hearing disembodied whispers, orders barked in Dutch and Afrikaans from voices lost to time. On cold nights, the air grows heavy and the scent of gunpowder lingers, though no weapons have fired in over a century. Inside, mannequins in old uniforms seem to move when you look away. Some visitors never make it past the entrance, paralyzed by an unseen force pressing on their chest. They say the dead at Fort Klapperkop were never buried, just left to march forever, waiting for a war that never came. And if you listen closely, you'll hear it. The ghostly roll call echoing just before midnight. 4. Fort Schanskop, Pretoria, perched on a slope above the capital. Fort Schanskop was built to defend a nation, but now it defends its secrets. Constructed in 1897 during the panic of the Anglo-Boer War, this fortress never fired a shot in anger. But that doesn't mean blood wasn't spilled within its walls. Step inside, and the silence presses in like a weight. Guards have long reported the sounds of footsteps on gravel, pacing back and forth, where no one walks. Some hear low, guttural voices speaking in languages they don't recognize, voices that stop the moment you try to listen. A thick, unnatural fog sometimes creeps over the grounds, swallowing light and sound until you're utterly alone. Paranormal investigators have recorded electronic whispers, pleas for help, unintelligible screams, and a name, Hendrik. But no Hendrik was ever stationed here, not officially. And then there's the cannon, a massive iron relic that's said to fire in the dead of night, though it hasn't worked in decades. Fort Schanskop is quiet by day, but by night, it becomes something else. A place where the dead refuse to be forgotten. 5. Fort Napier, Pietermaritzburg. Beneath the gentle hills of Pietermaritzburg lies a fortress that time forgot. Fort Napier, a place built for war, but remembered for madness. Erected in 1843 as a British garrison post, this once formidable stronghold later became something far more disturbing, a mental asylum, and something remained. Today, the fort is still surrounded by rusted fences and crumbling stone, but inside, the walls whisper. Ghostly figures in red coats are often seen pacing the perimeter, fading into the fog. At night, the sound of hoofbeats thunders across the parade ground, though no horses have been stabled here in generations. Some visitors claim to hear screams echoing from the cells and feel a cold breath on their neck when no one is behind them. One chilling legend tells of a soldier who was locked away, driven mad by the horrors he witnessed. They say he still roams the halls, eyes vacant, whispering numbers only he understands. Fort Napier is more than a relic. It's a prison of souls where war, insanity, and death have fused into something that will never let go. Enter if you dare, but don't expect to leave alone. 6. Fort Durnford, Estcourt, KwaZulu-Natal. Rising above the quiet town of Estcourt like a brooding sentinel, Fort Durnford holds more than just stone and history. It harbors shadows that breathe. Built in 1873 to protect settlers from Zulu attacks, the fort never saw full-scale battle, but violence clung to its walls all the same. By day, it's a museum. By night, it's something far darker. Locals speak of eerie lights glowing from the tower, flickering like lanterns held by invisible hands. Some have seen figures in tattered uniforms staring from the windows, faces pale, eyes hollow. Tour guides have fled in terror after hearing screams echoing through the cellar where weapons were once stored. And perhaps bodies too. There's one room that remains colder than the rest, no matter the season. They call it the Whisper Room. Stand inside and you'll hear it. A breath beside your ear. A name murmured from the dark, though no one's around. Fort Durnford may teach history during daylight, but after sunset it becomes a classroom for fear. And if the spirits want you to stay, you just might. 7. Fort Amile, Newcastle, KwaZulu-Natal. Standing quietly on a grassy hill above Newcastle, Fort Amile looks harmless, quaint even, but don't be fooled. Behind its faded walls and rusted cannons lies a history soaked in blood and haunted by regret. Built in 1876 as a British outpost during the Anglo-Zulu War, Fort Amile served as a military hospital, supply depot, and staging ground for death. But some say it never shut down. Visitors speak of phantom nurses moving through the old infirmary, their footsteps soft, their faces blurred. Some have heard moaning from empty rooms and the unmistakable sound of stretchers being dragged across wooden floors, though no patients remained. One man claimed to see a soldier missing half his face limping toward him, only to vanish mid-step. Even the wind here carries whispers, pleas, prayers, and sometimes warnings. Locals avoid the area after dusk, swearing that something watches from the shadows, something that remembers pain and feeds on fear. Fort Amile may have survived the wars of man, but within its walls, a darker war still rages, and the dead refuse to surrender. 8. Fort Mistake, Glencoe area, KwaZulu-Natal. Deep in the rugged hills near Glencoe lies a forgotten sentinel, Fort Mistake, a name born from a fatal blunder, and now cursed by it. Built during the Anglo-Zulu War, this lonely outpost was misjudged in position, leaving its troops exposed and vulnerable. Blood was spilled here, not just from enemy attacks, but from betrayal, disease, and despair. And the land remembers. They say a thick mist clings to the fort, even on clear days, swallowing sound and light like a living shroud. Travelers who wander too close often speak of figures standing still in the fog, watching, unmoving. Others report hearing battle cries, gunfire, and the gut-wrenching scream of a dying man, only to find themselves completely alone. Inside the ruins, temperatures plummet, cameras refuse to work. One historian vanished for hours, only to be found curled in a corner, whispering, "We shouldn't be here." Locals believe the fort's mistake wasn't its placement, but daring to forget the dead. Fort Mistake is a place where history bleeds into the present, and the spirits left behind still patrol the fog, trapped in an endless war no one wins. 9. Fort Nongqi, Eshowe, KwaZulu-Natal. In the heart of Eshowe, hidden behind whitewashed walls and colonial calm, stands Fort Nongqi, a place built on control, now ruled by silence. Constructed in 1883 for the Zululand Native Police, this fort once held power over the land and over the people who suffered within it. But the echoes of that suffering still live on. Visitors to the fort, now a museum, often report unseen footsteps pacing the old corridors, followed by the scent of smoke, though no fire burns. Exhibits move without explanation. Lights flicker, then die. The bravest guests whisper of a shadow in the courtroom, a tall figure in colonial uniform, standing motionless, yet exuding rage. One room, the former jail, feels alive. Those who enter speak of pressure on their chest, as if unseen hands are holding them down. Some hear crying, others hear laughter. They say the spirits of both captors and captives remain, locked in a cold, silent battle for justice that history tried to bury. Fort Nongqi no longer enforces the law. Now, it enforces memory, and memory has sharp teeth. 10. Fort Beaufort, Eastern Cape. Nestled in the heart of the Eastern Cape, surrounded by rolling plains and restless winds, lies Fort Beaufort, a relic of colonial conquest and a resting place for uneasy souls. Built in the early 1800s during the brutal frontier wars between British forces and Xhosa warriors, this fort has witnessed betrayal, bloodshed, and suffering beyond words. And it has never truly gone quiet. Visitors speak of ghostly war drums beating at dusk, echoing from the distant hills. Shadows move along the crumbling walls, some in British red, others in Xhosa regalia, as if the battle still rages. Just beyond the veil, in the dead of night, screams pierce the silence, sharp and desperate, then vanish like smoke in the wind. Inside, the old blockhouse is said to be cursed. Those who enter feel watched from all sides, and some emerge changed, pale, shaken, unable to speak of what they saw. Legends say the ground itself is cursed, soaked in rage and revenge. Fort Beaufort is no longer a fort, it's a scar, and some wounds never heal. Thank you for watching. If you dare to explore these eerie forts, remember, not all ghosts are ready to be forgotten. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more spine-tingling tales. Until next time, stay haunted and beware of what lurks in the shadows.